welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Ever try to figure out the real financial state of your local government?
It can be tricky, right?
Totally. So today we're looking at these government-wide financial statements. Our sources point us to them for, like, the big picture. We'll start with the statement of net position.
Exactly. And these statements, they pull everything together, all the governmental stuff and the business type activities, like utilities maybe.
Okay.
And they use a specific accounting method, full accrual economic resources focus. GASB 34 set that up. It's not just about cash coming in and out.
Right, it's broader. So this statement of net position, it's like a snapshot in time.
That's a perfect way to put it, a snapshot. And the basic math is assets plus these things called deferred outflows minus liabilities and deferred inflows. That gives you the net position.
Okay, simple enough formula. But then that net position number gets broken down, doesn't it?
It does, into three main parts. And that breakdown tells you a lot more. First up is net investment in capital assets.
So like bridges, buildings, equipment.
Exactly. It's the value of those assets, net of any depreciation, minus any debt that's specifically tied to buying or building them. Think bonds issued for a new school, for example.
Gotcha. So a high number there means the government owns a lot of infrastructure, relatively speaking.
Generally, yes, relative to the debt taken on for it. And the second part is restricted net position.
Restricted how?
Restricted by external parties, maybe grants with specific purposes or money set aside legally for debt payments. Our sources mention Progressive Township having millions restricted for capital projects and debt service.
Okay, so that money isn't available for just anything. Like,
Right.
They couldn't use the capital project money to, say, pay salaries.
Nope. Those restrictions are binding. It limits flexibility, which is, something to keep an eye on.
Right. And the third piece?
That's the unrestricted net position. It's basically everything else. The leftover amount after you account for the capital investment and the restricted funds.
So kind of the general use pot of money. The sources showed Progressive Township had some, but not huge amounts.
Yeah, it represents resources available for day-to-day operations or unexpected needs without external strings attached. A very low or negative number, there could be a warning sign.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about money moving between different government departments? Does that mess up the picture?
Good question. The accounting rules handle that. Generally, receivables and payables within governmental activities or within business-type activities, they get eliminated.
So if the Parks Department owes the Public Works Department, it cancels out in the big picture.
Precisely. It's internal bookkeeping. But if there's a net amount owed between governmental and business-type activities, that does show up. And anything owed to or from, say, pension trust funds, fiduciary funds, that's treated like an external transaction.
Okay. And where do things like the city motor pool fit? The internal service funds?
Usually those get rolled up into the governmental activities column because they primarily serve the government departments.
All right. So the statement of net position gives us that snapshot, but things change, right? How do we see the activity over the year?
That's the other main government-wide statement, the statement of activities. Think of it more like an income statement.
Showing revenues and expenses.
Exactly. Over the whole year, also on that full accrual basis, it tells you how the net position changed. One really useful thing it does is show the net program cost.
Net program cost.
Yeah.
What's that boil down to?
It compares the expenses of a specific function, like public safety or parks, directly against the revenues generated by that function. So fees, grants for that program.
So you can see how much a service relies on general taxes versus paying for itself. Like, does the water utility cover its costs with water bills?
Precisely. It breaks out program revenues, charges for services, operating grants, capital grants. Then you subtract those from the program's expenses. What's left is the net expense or sometimes net revenue for that program.
And then how do you get to the overall change for the government?
You take all those net program expenses, and then you factor in the government's general revenues, things like property taxes, income taxes, unrestricted investment earnings that aren't tied to specific programs.
Okay. So net expenses from all programs minus general revenues equals the change in net position for the year.
You got it. That explains how you got from the net position at the start of the year to the one at the end.
So putting it together, these two statements give you, well, a pretty comprehensive view, right? The position at a point in time and the flows during the year.
They really do. It's that full picture GASB was aiming for.
So final thought for our listener. What's the key takeaway here? Why should you care about these statements?
Well, I think Understanding how these two statements work together, the snapshot and the activity, gives you a much more informed perspective. You can better judge, how your government is managing public resources and its overall financial health and accountability. It's really about seeing beyond just the headlines.